Now, the world has marked the World Malaria Day under the theme Time to Deliver Zero Malaria, Invest, Innovate, Implement. According to World Health Organization, statistics show that in 2021, there were 619,000 malaria deaths across the world, 247 million new cases of malaria in the same year, and 95% of all reported cases around the world are more prevalent in African countries. Here is our special feature for tonight by our features reporter Faith Imani Mugo.
Malaria, a deadly disease transmitted by female Anopheles mosquito. According to the World Health Organization, malaria claims the lives of over 400,000 people every year, most of whom are children under the age of 5.
Malaria is a parasitic disease caused by mosquito, and the type of the mosquito that causes malaria is called Anopheles mosquito, which is a female mosquito. We have about 5 types of parasites that causes malaria. One of them is falciparum, malaria, and also ovaria. All those are types of the parasite that causes malaria. But the common one that causes malaria mostly, or the one that we have here, is usually Plasmodium falciparum, which is common and it's a photo parasite that can cause maybe complications of malaria. The signs and symptoms of malaria when somebody presents with malaria are several of them. We have one of them is a person present with headache, fever, chills, general weakness of the body. Others present also with vomiting.
Malaria still remains a deadly disease, with many poverty-stricken families decrying poor environment and lack of essentials like mosquito net as the main issue affecting them. Jen says she, alongside with her family, have severally been diagnosed with malaria.
Imagine imetusumbua sana tukiwa na mama mwingine jirani yangu hapa. Tumeteseka sana. Tumegojeka malaria. Tunawaita wasiki. Paka watoto wetu. Tumegundua na shida sana. Wakati korona ilikuja tukagojeka korona tukapeleka kwa hospitali bado. Hawasiki. Wakati wa kura ndio nakujaga hapa kuomba kura. Kusema kweli tumeteseka sana. Imagine imekaa green.
Juzi ndio nilienda nini?
Uko na kadi yote ya hospitali?
Kadi saa hizi nini?
Next to her is Jerry, who says mosquitoes have been their companions, whether it rains or not, because of the environment they are living in.
Maji inakuja mpaka hapa. Na hii maji hata wakati ya kiangazi ishi. Wakati ya mvua sasa hii uchafu yote inafagiliwa inaenda mpaka kwa nyumba. Kwa wakati ya kiangazi naye umbu. Hata saa hizi tulali kwa ajili ya umbu. Malaria iishi. Sasa tunakaa kila saa ni hospitali labda tunaenda utiende. Daktari wakikuja watusaidii, kwa ajili wanakuja tu na dawa ya maji na ni pakiti mbili. Itusaidii kabisa kwa ajili mosquito inatusumbua. Mzungu alikuja na neti, na neti naye ndio hiyo ni ya mtu mmoja. Kwa nyumba anatumia gumboot.
Anakanyaga
Hii ndio anatumia slippers. Sasa wakati kulinyesha maji imekuwa mingi hata tulali. Haya niko na biashara mahali pale.
Tafuta wiro mwage. Hiyo wiro nimetafuta nimekosa.
Some of the challenges they decry of include lack of medical facilities near them, as getting to the nearest hospital is a real hassle. They say they try to keep their home clean, but it's difficult with so many mosquitoes around.
Na ukienda huko hakuna dawa. Unaandikiwa tu, unaenda kununua dawa. Hebu niambie maji yote, utajizuia aje kusema kweli? Ugonjwa inatubata. Na mimi niko na watoto wangu wanaenda shule, niko na watoto 3 kwa nyumba. Wanasoma. Mmoja akagojeka akaraswa Bagathi. Malaria. Nikapiga kelele nikateta mama kijiji yanitetea tukaenda naye utiende, akaniandikia rifaro, nikaenda Bagathi. Hakuna kitu hatusaidiangi. Lakini malaria nisika na ikashika mtoto wangu. Nikaenda utiende, nikatumwa Bagathi, watu wanisaidia. Kuku zangu sikagojeka na ndio nategemea hiyo. Nikauza sote.
The only help she got recently of a mosquito net was brought to her by a well-wisher, as she is unable to school her children and at the same time buy essentials needed for protection against mosquitoes.
Siwezi pata hiyo neti. Nang'ang'ana tu nilipe shule. Nikamwomba tu neti akaniletea. Wazungu ni wazuri, si wabaya. Akaniletea neti na akanibaia unga, mchere na sabuni.
Joyce Wanja, the woman representative of the women in Bangladesh slum, says the situation is dire.
Ile kitu inatushangaza sana ni vile malaria iko mingi kwa hii kijiji. Na kusema ukweli, sisi kama hapa kuna CSV wenye wanaandikaga rifaro ya hospitali. Na kuhusu hizo rifaro, mtu akienda hospitali tunaendaga utiende. Ukienda unakuta mtu ni malaria ako nayo kwa wingi. Tukiuliza serikali tunaambiwa Nairobi hakuna malaria. Tukiomba net tunaambiwa Nairobi hakuna malaria, malaria iko Kisumu. Na kusema ukweli, malaria iko hapa Bangladesh. Watu wanaenda hospitali kila siku. Na ni shida kwa sababu hata nauli hawana. Hatuwezi enda Kajiado, tunaenda Lang'ata. Kutoka hapa kwenda Lang'ata ni shilingi 150 asubuhi na kurudi ni 100. Ukienda mtu ni mgonjwa hata hajiwezi. Inatubidi sisi kama viongozi unagharamia.
Na jaribu kuwafahamisha ya kwamba vile mnaweza jikinga wakati huu kuna ugonjwa wa malaria, vile kunanyesha hivi, ni vyema tujichunge na tutumie net, mosquito net wakati wa usiku, wakati mnalala, wakati watoto wanalala, mnajaribu kuwachunga sana na kuwafunika vizuri na kwa ndani ya net ili wasiweze kujipata na wakipatwa na malaria, especially wakati huu hata wanafunga shule. Ni vizuri kuwachunga na pia nanyi pia mjichunge vizuri.
We met with a volunteer community healthcare worker who said they are doing what they can possibly do to ensure the community is well educated.
Kazi yangu sana ni kuhamasisha our community more about malaria, vile wanaweza kutumia mosquito net, kuchunga watoto wakati kama huu. Malaria imekuwa kwa hali ngumu sana wakati kumenyesha. Watoto wasicheze kwa maji ambayo ni stagnant water. Tunajaribu kuwaelimisha kabisa jinsi ya kujikinga kutokana na ugonjwa huu wa malaria. Ni kwa sababu wasipotumia mosquito net tunapata tunaitwa usiku, wagonjwa ni wengi, watoto wanagonjeka, wanakosa kwenda mashuleni. Sasa tunajaribu sana kuhamasisha our community waweze kutumia net na kutreat ile net ili tuweze kujikinga vizuri na kukaa katika mazingira ambayo yanastahili.
Medics, however, say statistically, malaria within Nairobi area has reduced drastically. Even though malaria is not so rampant in Nairobi and its environs, according to experts, a number of people living in slums, near rivers and other dumpy places are still being diagnosed with malaria every other day.
Statistically, we can say malaria here in Logai and also in Nairobi has tremendously reduced. Because yes, mosquito is still there, but the mosquito that is here in Nairobi and within Logai, it's not affecting people with malaria. Unlike maybe up countries, places like Kisumu and Kisii, those sides, Western, there is a lot of mosquito that causes malaria those sides. So we get maybe patients or clients who come from those sides when they travel to those sides, and majority when they come this side, after testing them, we realize they have malaria. And so they can also infect our people, the people that are here on this side, because the way the mosquito the malaria is transmitted is maybe when a person has malaria, the mosquito bites that person. And then when it bites that person with malaria, then it bites another person, then it infects those parasites with the other person. So that's how it is. It is transmitted from one person to another through the mosquito itself. And as I was saying, maybe the statistically here that we have very few malaria cases here, but at least maybe, let's say, at least we don't lack at least maybe 2-3 cases of malaria per week. And you know, in the case of sickness, it's a case to be alarmed about, because malaria sometimes can be a fatal or illness or disease, because it can bring complications like I said, person get confused. That leads to cerebral malaria, and the cerebral malaria can affect the brain, and that person can get complications, and eventually the person can have problem with the brain, and can even have a permanent brain damage, particularly in the children. And so therefore, malaria is also a fatal condition if not detected early and treated early. We have a lot of farm areas, we have a lot of stump areas, we have a lot of bush areas in this area of Rugai and the environment. So therefore, I think as malaria, as we said, malaria, the mosquito breeding areas are those places where there's stagnant water, there's a lot of bushes. But those malarias, the malaria themselves, they don't have the parasites. They don't have Plasmodium falciparum. But if this malaria, if this person who live in those areas, somebody else come from another place and has malaria and is bitten by that mosquito, then it will spread to other people. So it is very important for our people to clear these bushes, to clear these swamp areas, to prevent the breed of malaria, because you never know who will come with those maybe malaria, carrying malaria in his blood.
According to Dr. Wangombe, for those who do contract malaria, proper diagnosis and treatment are critical.
To confirm that somebody has malaria, these days we don't advocate with only signs and symptoms, as we have said earlier. You have to be done a lab test. You have to be done a blood test, because as I said, the symptoms that are presented with malaria, they can present with the flu. You can be having a flu and you think it is malaria. Then you go and buy medicine for malaria. Then you're thinking it is malaria, but it's a flu. So it is very important, when you think it's malaria, go to an established hospital where you can be done a blood test. And after doing the blood test, they confirm whether you have malaria, then you can start treatment. Because that is what has caused a lot of resistance of malaria drugs, because of over-the-counter drugs, or maybe people prescribing medication by themselves. They feel, I have headache, I have general weakness of the body, then they lodge to either the pharmacy or maybe to the hospital, and then they present the symptom, then the doctor feel as if this is malaria, then he give the treatment. It has got a lot of resistance of medication. So we advocate, before you take in a malaria drug, and which is a requirement of the Minister of Health and also WHO, we should be tested for malaria. Malaria is also a treatable condition, because once it is diagnosed, it's well treated. The treatment of malaria is done with the malaria drugs. We have the first line of treatment of malaria we call AL. This is the first line of treatment, and it is usually mostly effective for malaria. But if it persists, then we can go to the second line of treatment, like quinine or artesunate, and usually the response is usually very good.
The residents of Bangladesh all have one cry for the government to intervene in their situation to make their environment better.
Kwa serikali yetu wajue Bangara kuna malaria, na malaria ni mingi. Waacha kukuja kutuletea tudawa saa ile tunakufa, na hawajui hata vile tunafikaga hospitali juu tumewachiliwa. Hii kijiji yetu, kusema ukweli kuhusu malaria, wasiseme hakuna malaria. Malaria iko mingi ya kutosha, na hata kama kuna hospitali ile ya kutoka nje inakuja kusimamia kijiji, wakuje tu watusaidie hapa, waseme hakuna malaria. Malaria iko kwa wingi, kwa wingi. Juu ukienda unaandikwa malaria, hiyo malaria imetoka wapi?
Sasa imekuwa shida kabisa. Kwa hivyo tunaomba serikali hakika watusaidie hapa, watusaidie kabisa. MCA wetu kama ananisikia, atusaidie kabisa. kabisa kwa unyenyekevu. Kama wewe ni wetu, tulikupenda tukakuchagua tukakurudisha mara nyingine, hakika usituachilie na shida hii.
Medics say prevention of malaria is however better than cure.
The other major things is maybe which you usually advocate for clients even after treatment is how to prevent them from getting malaria, which is very key. And one thing of prevention of malaria is we advise people to use nets when they are sleeping, mosquito nets, particularly on children and mothers that are pregnant, because they are more at risk than the other people. Because you know the immune system of a mother who is pregnant are very low. The immune system of children that are 5 years are also very low. So that's why we advocate for children that are 5 and or everybody to use mosquito net. Another thing is clearing the bush, because mosquitoes like a place where there is a lot of bush. That's where they multiply, they hatches their eggs, and also on stagnant waters, through maybe stagnant bottles also maybe, and other things where the water is stagnant, there is multiplications and the growth where they breed, the breeding areas. So we also advise our clients and our patients when we treat them, because we don't want them to be getting recurrence and malaria infections. So those are the basic things that usually advise them. And even those that are traveling, we also advocate, maybe if you're traveling in an area that has malaria, you can use medications for prevention. We call them prophylaxis or for prevention. And even mothers that are also pregnant, we also advise them to use prophylaxis to prevent themselves from getting malaria.
It is clear that progress is being made, but there is still so much to be done to eliminate malaria. On this World Malaria Day, let's remember that by working together, we can make malaria a thing of the past.
Malaria still remains a deadly disease. Unfortunately, people living in poverty-stricken areas find themselves at more risk of contracting this deadly disease. Faith Imani Mugo for Hope TV Newswatch.